Good morning, my diamonds. How many of you are knowledgeable about what this new era and this new generation of people are starting to do? Are you familiar with LAT? LAT, living apart together. That's what a lot of people of this generation are starting to do. And, a lot of people are saying, well, why bother getting married if you're going to live apart? There is many reasons for living apart, but you're still together because you have your separate downtime. You have more alone time, especially this is meaningful for people who have been raising children for well over 30 years. You have your own space to do with as you please. A greater appreciation for one another. You appreciate sex more because you know what they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. It reduces the friction that comes from living with a loved one. It makes relationships so much more interesting. And you don't have to constantly keep making sacrifices when it comes to your own happiness. And this helps a great deal for the women who say that they're doing most of the cooking, the cleaning, the housework, the children. This living apart together is proving to be a new phenomenon. Let me share this with you. Here we go.
You live 15 minutes apart right
Yeah.
now, right? Why does that work when you decided to be a union? And I imagine the plan was to live under the same roof.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we kind of touched on throughout our marriage was before we got married, we were both fiercely independent people and we had our own lives. We had
How
our
old
own
are you?
hobbies. 36.
So by 36, you've got your routine. You know
Yeah.
where you want your toothpaste. You know if you're an under toilet paper or under. All these little debates that happen, you don't have to have
Exactly.
them when you're living alone.
Yep, exactly. And we got married in our 20s. So we kind of just realized a few years in that we were living this routine married life, in stereotypical gender roles of what marriage should be.
Yeah, like the typical husband and wife duties. So I feel like as a woman, I'm sure many people can relate that we always put our spouse or our family before ourselves. So when I got married and when we started living together, I always wanted him to be happier first and then me. And I felt like I was starting to kind of lose my identity and my independence and who I am, what made me an independent, powerful woman.
We fall into these traditional roles, but could you not fix this, if you will,
Sure.
under the same roof?
It's definitely, the problem was that we cared about each other so much
Yeah.
that everything we did was always with the other person in mind, even when the other person didn't care. So examples would be what we ate for dinner. It might be something that I would want, but Sana didn't really like, and she's like, well, I'm making it for you.
Also, every single time I'm cooking, I'm making sure that it's something he would enjoy. And now that I'm on my own, I get to cook things that I know that like vegetarian.
So do you
and vegan
consider
items.
yourself single?
No.
Not at all. We are very monogamous, very much in
happily married still.
So y'all, this couple is super inspirational, especially since they started as a cohabitating married couple and now they live apart together. I think as someone who's been single his entire adult life, this is the relationship dynamic for me. I like my independence, but I also like companionship. I want to feel like I'm choosing my partner every day and not that I'm stuck or that I'm forcing it upon myself just because we live together and we're around each other all the time.
I'm sorry about that. I got sidetracked.
Not that I'm stuck or that I'm forcing it upon myself just because we live together and we're around each other all the time. Also, there's a lot of Americans already doing it. According to the U.S. Census, an estimated 4 million married couples live apart and almost 3 million in Canada. So what are some of the pros of living apart together? Pause to read. Pause to read. There are also cons of living apart together. Honestly, it's way more expensive because you have to have 2 households, 2 homes, all that. So a lot of costs are double. Trust and infidelity issues, but a lot of people who cohabitate cheat on each other. So not sure if that's the biggest con to speak to. Also, if you don't prioritize your relationship, it's a lot easier to avoid difficult conversations and conflict. And of course, society will ridicule you. So could you live apart together? Let me know in the
Absolutely.
comments. Also,
Yes, I can. Yes. That's the best way to live as far as I'm concerned. And it's just like the latest thing that a lot of people are doing. Some people say, well, it's more expensive. Well, if you feel that you need help with the rent or some of the finances, you could always get yourself a roommate, someone of your same gender, And when it comes to trust issues, let's not act like we are, like we're stupid or something, because people cheat when they're living together. You know, you have married couples who live together or cohabitate together, and they cheat almost every day, every other day. They cheat on a regular basis. So, you know, if you don't have trust in a person, then you shouldn't be with the person, because without trust, there is really no relationship anyway. Let's take note of how many other people are living this new lat, living apart together. Here we go.
He did not. Baby.
No.
Baby.
No, listen. I cleared a spot, and I like even numbers on here.
This is way too much.
It's not too much. I can stop whenever I want. It's not a problem. We live separately together. I can have as many plants as I want to.
Yes.
If you've ever considered a living apart together long-term relationship, I highly recommend it.
Absolutely.
My partner and I have been together for 5 years, and we have no intention of ever living together. We bought houses 10 minutes apart from each other so we could be close, but not too close. In the past, I just figured out that I do not enjoy cohabitation, and so when I started this relationship, I made sure to be clear about the fact that I'm not interested in living together. This concept was new to my partner, but he's loving it. It works great for him as well. I'm someone who really likes my alone time. I like my own space, and I'm very particular about my space. And frankly, I'm a better partner when I get to live separately.
Me too, honey.
There is some weird social stigma associated with the fact that if you don't want to live with your partner, then obviously you don't love him, or this is not the right partner for you. But that's not true. There's no partner in the world that will change who I am as a person and what I need. And so living apart together relationships work for me, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks.
If you are practicing living apart together and you're wondering how is it that we can create and foster more strength and connection in our relationship. Hi, my name is Joanna, and I practice living apart together with my current partner and also work with my clients in mentorship on how to navigate, facilitate, and grow in their living apart together relationship. Obviously, regardless of the type of relationship container that you choose to be in, whether you're living together, you want to get married, you want to live separately, like whatever it is, developing closeness, intimacy, and connection in your relationship has to be a priority. Otherwise, the relationship is going to die. Living apart together definitely requires more intention on this aspect because you don't have the convenience of being in the same house together where like you could create micro moments of connection just by osmosis, just by being in the same room. So here are 3 ways that you can cultivate and develop more strength together as you grow and push the relationship forward. Number 1, I am a huge John Gottman fan. And so if you haven't looked towards anything to help you kind of spice things up and realign with each other in your communication, 8 Dates by John Gottman is amazing because then you have to set up 8 dates and there's an assignment for each one. This allows you to create alignment and also to understand like where is it that you're going now? Like life changes over time. Our partners change, we change.
Yep.
How is it that you can invite each other into that change as you grow? Number 2, make a list of all the things you value about your partner. Like literally think about who they are as a human being. And then I want you to be so specific, like not just say like, oh, you're really beautiful, right? Like study them. What do they do that you find so valuable as a human being? What do they do that you find inspiring, that you find to be like next level? The little things that they do that other people probably don't notice, but you see it because you see their integrity. You see how they operate. You know what their intentions and motives are in life. Call those things out and tell them what you appreciate about them and how you see them. The 3rd thing I would highly recommend is to have one of those conversations where you just sit down and you say, what is it that you're looking to create in your life? Where are you going? Where are you headed? How is it that I can support you in that? How is it that I can help you shine in that? I promise you, if you start showing up with that type of presence in your relationship, it'll get a whole lot better. And also, like, Don't pretend like you know it all. Don't think that you know it all. You don't. Pursue your partner. Pursue them like you literally cannot learn enough about them. I completely disagree with the idea that just because you choose to live apart from your partner, that it means you are avoiding certain aspects of who they are. I recently did a video called Living Apart Together because I am an LAT. I've been living this lifestyle for 4 years, and here's why. After I got dropped on my ass and lost everything in my divorce, to crawl to my survival, I had never been self-sufficient before in my life. I had always relied on another person for my income. And now I had to figure that out for myself. And I knew it was going to be a climb. I knew that I had to build my career. I knew it was going to take levels of dedication, and that a traditional relationship setup with my children was not going to work. So I get the assumption here, but what you're forgetting is that when you choose to honor the best sides of yourself, meaning you know your capacity for a relationship, pretzel, and you know what it is that you want and what you need and what you can contribute, you negotiate a relationship based on those things. Expectations are properly set. You can connect with this person and give your best self for the time that you have to invest. This does not mean that you don't love your partner. It also does not mean that, and we make it mean something. Culture makes it mean something. It means that you're not committed, that you don't really love them, that you're not really invested, and that you got 1 foot out the door and 1 foot in the door. But it doesn't mean any of those things. It means that you know your capacity, you're using emotional intelligence in your life, and you're asking for what you want and for what you need. The container of the relationship will be outgrown at some point, and this happens in any kind of relationship. I don't care if you're married, if you're just doing whatever it is that you're doing in a relationship. You have to renegotiate, because as you grow and change, you have to go back to your partner and be like, hey, this is who I am now. And you work through it. It's negotiating literally will change your life. I talk about negotiating a lot on my page. So if that's something that's intriguing to you, please stick around. Also, I created a masterclass called The New Era of Relationships. So if that is something that you want to learn about and you're intrigued with this idea of negotiating relationships, refiguring out your definition of commitment, understanding what living apart together really is, or different forms of relationships, join the masterclass. I'm going to empower the shit out of you, and it will leave you.
I started responding to this in my drafts.
The number one question I get from everybody asking about.
From Gwyneth Paltrow to Julia Roberts, some say the key to strengthening a marriage might be separate addresses, and it's now becoming a growing trend called living apart together. Evian Whitney and husband of 15 years, Jonathan Meade, experienced it firsthand.
I wanted to see who I was when being somebody's partner, being somebody's wife, wasn't at the center of my universe.
Before pandemic lockdowns forced Americans inside, the couple decided to stay together from afar in February of 2020. Meade stayed at their home in Oregon. Whitney moved to Los Angeles, 1,000 miles away, where a planned few weeks apart turned into 11 months living apart together.
I really felt such a spaciousness to be able to accommodate my needs, my wants, my desires.
It's important to note living apart together, or LAT relationships, don't always mean long distance. The LAT lifestyle is about choice and can range from a few to thousands of miles physically separating a married couple. Long distance typically is a result of changing circumstance. Between 2000 and 2022, the percentage of married people living separately grew by more than 40%. The latest U.S. Census shows the figure spiked in 2022 to roughly 3.89 million American married adults living apart.
The people who are actually choosing it as a lifestyle are often people who have children from a former relationship.
Author and lifestyle journalist Vicki Larson says absence can make the heart grow fonder.
As Esther Perel says, desire needs some space. Ask any person who's in a LAT relationship one of the best things about it, and they will without a doubt say sex.
For Whitney and Meade, space made way for both partners to focus on emotional and mental healing.
If I take this time for myself, that means that I can better show up to my relationship with my partner and be really clear about what I want, what I need, and also we can build something so much stronger than we had before.
The idea of living apart together was highlighted in the New York Times in December. The article cited women's well-being as a driver for the decision, allowing them to reap the benefits of marriage while avoiding traditional at-home burdens.
It alleviates the gendered roles that people have for women, that we will be the cookers and the cleaners.
Having that space and that time really allowed me to get clear about how I want my gender to be expressed, celebrated, honored, and acknowledged within the relationship.
Though the lifestyle comes at a cost. 2 homes means 2 rent payments or mortgages. Government data shows the average person living alone spends about 36% more in housing annually compared to a married couple living together.
It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of financial security to do this long term.
And married while living apart may not be for everyone. Insecurities and jealousy could force couples to grow apart. The secret?
Communicate.
Yep.
You have to have a lot of trust, and you have to set up ways to grow that trust together because you're not around.
Today, Whitney and Meade live together under one roof. They said it was spearheaded by political uncertainty during the last presidential inauguration.
I think we both just got to a point within this experience where we're like, okay, I think we're good. Like, I think we've got what we needed from it. We can get a divorce tomorrow. We don't have to be together, but we're choosing actively every single day.
I am so pro with the living apart and yet you're together, because I keep thinking about what is the definition of insanity. Insanity, it means you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, and yet you're expecting different results. Now, if you look at the divorce rate, it's over 50% now. And if you combine that with the separation rate, the divorce rate and the separation rate put together is at least 90%. So it's very obvious and very apparent that this living together, it's not working. I think that people who are very insecure, or very needy, they don't mind being smothered, that living together thing, it may be something that they need. But in this new era of relationships, a lot of married people or married couples are finding it very helpful to live apart, and yet they're still together. And like she said, communication is very important. And when you think about video chat, you could always video chat your partner, when you want to talk, or you can have dinner each night together. Let's say dinner is at 7 and we sit at the table separately and we have dinner together, whether you're having your wine and you're talk about your day. It's just great. I recall when I was married, my ex-husband, he always had to have a room or some place that you could go to, because when you get on my last nerve, I can't be so bothered. And I keep thinking about how stress and aggravation, it accelerates aging. And I'm not trying to look like anyone's old woman. And another benefit of this living apart and yet you're together, like it says, it takes away those gender roles that they assign to women, that women are supposed to do all the cooking, she's supposed to do all the cleaning, all the laundry, the child rearing, etc., etc., etc. No. When you're living apart and yet you're together, even when you're married, you're faithful to each other, but you notice how he has to keep his own house clean. He has to do his own laundry. He has to do his own cooking. Now, when you guys decide to get together, that's your decision, whatever works for you. Personally, I would say Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we could get together. One weekend, I will hang out over your place. Next weekend, you hang out over at mine. But we have that space. We have that time apart. And that would just be perfect, even though I'm not interested in marriage at all. But for those who still feel that life is not worth living unless you have a man, that's an option. I like this new era of relationships. What about you? Twinkle, twinkle, twinkle.